AWS identity and access management. So what we are going to do today is we are going to create a bunch of accounts. So say you have created one AWS account, right? And here's how it works. Maybe you are an admin, you are a solution architect, you are designing a solution for an enterprise. Now in enterprise, there are tens and thousands of users, right? And each person has their own requirement regarding the access requirements, or maybe in terms of usage they are allowed. Okay, so each and every participant, each and every user, each and every person might require a different level of access. So how you go about managing that access? So whenever you go to a shop or anything, or maybe you are visiting a bank, you are visiting a government facility, your ID card more or less allows you to enter certain areas. So if you're not allowed to enter there, that area is restricted for you. How's that decided? That is decided with the ID card that you are given, the ID that you have, your name, maybe your face, maybe they have your fingerprint on record. So they create an identity for you, right? And based on that identity, like who you are, based on that identity your access is managed, right? So maybe you walk into a bank, right? Very simple scenario, to the common checkers area, to the where all the cashiers are, everybody is allowed access there, right? You can go there, submit your money, you can withdraw some money, no worries. But can each and every person access the lockers? No. The lockers are accessible to only those who have a locker account there, who have a locker there. Similarly, not every person is allowed to access the vault. The vault will be accessible to the bank employees who only have pre-authorization to go into vault to get money or to get stuff that is there in the vault. So based on their identity, their access is defined. Your identity is you are a customer of a bank, and that allows you to be in checkers area. And maybe some other person, maybe a bank employee, is allowed to go into vault because his identity has the access to go into vault. Similarly, in case of AWS, when you create a user, you're creating an identity, and that user is given some level of access. It can be full access. Full access is still access, right? It can be just access to create servers. It can be just access to create storage or something like that. It can be access to just audit things. So he won't be able to create things, but he will be able to see things that are already created. That allows him to audit. So maybe government comes to you and they want to audit your AWS account. You don't have to give them full access. Just give them an audit access. That's it. So today, this is the course plan that we are going to follow. I'll be introducing you to IAM. Then I'll be introducing to you the various resources that are part of IAM: user, group, roles, permissions, and policy. Then I'll go to access management. And at the end, before jumping into actual AWS resources that cost money, I'll be creating a billing alarm for you guys, so that if ever you cross a limit, you get charging, you get an email from AWS, okay, you are getting charged now, please terminate this, so you know you don't get any surprise bills, right? So IAM is completely free to use. No matter how many users, hundreds, thousands, or maybe billions of users you create on AWS, they are not going to charge you. The chargeable resources are those which actually incur any costs to AWS. So IAM is more of a free offering wherein you can create one account, and within that account you can have 10, 20, 50, how many users you want. So we will create some users. I'll show you how the permissions are assigned, how the access is managed. All right. So why do you want to create users? As I said in the bank example, each and every person has different set of requirements when they are accessing any system, right? So bank is also a system. Similarly, AWS is also a system. So when 10 users are in your organizations, maybe two of them are from your sysadmins, right? A few users are your those users who need access to storage. Maybe few users are just your accounts people. They want to keep track of costs that you are incurring. Maybe a couple of people are like, okay, they want access to just database or something, right? So the person who is responsible for servers should not have access to other things, maybe billing, right? So in billing, your credit card data is there. You don't want each and every person to be, accessing your credit card data, right? Correct? So you don't want a person who is responsible for your servers accessing your credit card information, right? So you can create a new user give them access to all the server access he needs, but don't give them access around the credit card information. So that is a use case, right? It enables secure access. By creating the users and the groups, you can really manage the access, and you will be sure to some extent that your access won't be misused, your account won't be misused, because you have given access to only those people who actually require those, and they gonna use it as per their permissions, right? So this is a workflow how a IAM user is created. I'll show you the screenshots first, but then we will actually jump into console and create some, right? So this is your console, you're aware about it. You go to identity and access management. On the dashboard, this is how your dashboard looks like, right? So when you have created a new account, like I recommend you all create an account. So this is how your dashboard will look like. Initially, every account comes with one user that is called root user. So when you create an account, you will be assigned root permissions for that, all right? So root user has complete access. Any access you name it, he has that, be it your billing, be it your servers, be it your storage, be it your database, everything can be controlled via root account, right? And from a security standpoint, it's not recommended to carry all the tasks with your root account. I'll tell you why. Say you have a root account, right? And you are using that account on daily basis. Now what happens? Somebody manages to hack into your root account, right? You went to a library, you logged in with your root account there. Now the next person who sat on that computer has full access to your AWS account. Wrong scenario, should not happen, because now he can actually control that account, take over that account. But remember, your credit card is added to that account. So he can go on spinning as many resources he wants, and you will be charged for that, right? So whenever you create a AWS account, go to AWS, create a new user with almost full privileges like we will do now. So if and ever you forget your that AWS account logged somewhere, you can just delete that user rather than changing your whole root account, right? So how you go about creating user, you just click on add user, name of users, what kind of access do you want to provide them, then you click on next, you add permissions. Just breeze through these slides, we'll go into detail of each one of these as I will create the users in the console in front of you. Once you have added permissions, click create user, and your user will be created. Now let me go to console and just create this user for you, right? So this is my AWS management console. Okay, I go to services, just type IAM. Okay, I typed IAM. Okay, so click on users, either from here or here. I'll click from here. So right now there are no users. All right, click on add user, this blue button here. You clicked on add user. What would be this user's name? Maybe user one. Anything, you can give anything. Now the access type. There are two access types here. One is programmatic access and another one is AWS Management Console access. Now, what is the difference between these two? When you want a user to be able to see this console like you are doing it, you want to give AWS Management Console access. All right. And when you want user to be able to access this AWS via CLI, remember in last class I told you about CLI and SDK. If you want them to be able to access CLI and SDK, see, they have written it, AWS API, CLI, SDK, and other development tools. Then you want to give programmatic access. Okay, so right now I don't want to give the programmatic access. I just want to give management console access. No worries. Now next comes the console password. What password they should put in when they are trying to log in to the account. You can give your own password, a custom password, or you can have AWS auto generate that for you. So when you click on auto generate, the user will get it in the, you will see that password one time. You can copy it, email it to user, whatever, you can have him sitting by your side. He can note down, he can remember that password. So when he logs in the next time, he will have to create a new password. So I'm going with a custom password. I'll give a small password, right? So now you have given one password. See this, require password reset. So you have created user. Now, right now, you as well as that user both know the password. But when that user will try to log in for the first time, AWS will ask him to change your password. So that way, you are admin, right? You should not know other people's password, right? A person should be responsible for his own password. You should not have access to other person's password, even if you are an admin, right? So this is the password. We'll see if AWS asks me for my password when I log in or not. Next, I'm going to give permissions. Okay. So there are two ways to give permissions. One is by creating groups. We are not going to do that right now, but up in the when we create next user, I'll do that. And second is attach existing policies directly. Okay. So there are three options. Either you add him to the group, or you copy the permission from an existing user, or you attach the policies directly. We don't have any other users. We don't have any group. So my third option is attach existing policies directly. So which kind of thing I want him to get access to? Maybe I want to give him access to EC2, that is my compute, right? So I type in EC2. So you see this Amazon EC2 full access, right? So if I click here, he will be able to access all of EC2. EC2 is this service. So, okay. So say I want to give him access to only this service. Just click on that policy and he will have access to EC2 only. Now, maybe you want to give access to S3 as well. Okay. See this policy? You will have access to S3 as well. So all these products that you see here have one policy each. You can give access to all of them. You can give access to only one of those. You can give access to 10 of those. It's your choice. So I gave access to EC3. Next is tags. Tags are just a way to organize your users. So department, for example, say this person belongs to sysadmins. Maybe tomorrow I have a department named finance. I can create one for finance. I can create one, say marketing, and so on. Next, when I click review, it will tell me what I'm going to do. So I'm creating user one who will be having AWS Management Console access. The password type was custom because I added it. Require password reset. When user logs in for the first time, they'll ask him to reset his password. Permission boundary is not set. And what kind of permissions I have given him? I have given him EC2, S3, as well as able to change his own password, right? And what are the tags? I have given a tag named department whose values is sysadmin. As soon as I create user, my user will be created. Now, when a user wants to sign in, he has to go to this link. All right. Now I'll show you how. And you can also send an email to that user from here. Maybe they have an email ID. Just click on send email and email will open. You can set up your email and a mail will be sent to him. Right. So right now we are going to test if that user works or not. So I copied this. Let me go to a different browser. We paste it here. Click on enter. So this page will open for me. All right. So the user was user one, right? Enter his password. Click on sign in. Not now. See, now he is asking me to change my password because this is the first time I'm logging in. So let me change my password. Right. Confirm password change, not now. And I am logged in as user one. Come on. See, user one. And this number is your account number. So every AWS account has a unique account number. This number is your, this 12-digit number is your account number, the account that you are working on. Now, let's see if he has the required access or not. I wanted him to access EC2. Let's click on EC2. He is able to get here, right? He can see everything. And maybe he wants to go to instance. We'll go to EC2, don't worry about it. I'll explain EC2 in detail when we go, reach EC2 lesson, but just for now, he can do this, like all access is there, okay? Now, for S3, he has access, let's see. Okay, so S3 as well, he has access. He's getting all the details here. Now, maybe look at something that we didn't give him access to, maybe RDS. Let's go to RDS, see what happens. Okay, so he's reaching till here. Go to DB instances. See, he's getting an error. What's the error? User 1 is not authorized to perform RDS DBS cluster. So he's not able to even view. There he was able to click and everything and do everything. Here he is not even able to, so he'll get a error right away when he tries to do anything in RDS. Right? Maybe some other product we want to test. Maybe go to VPC, right? Network access. He has access to network or not. Let's click on your VPCs. Okay, till here he has access. Let's say if he tries to create one VPC. Okay, so he tries to create. Okay, now he's able to create this, right? Why is that? We didn't give him access to VPC, but still he is able to create this VPC. The reason is because we have given him access to EC2. EC2 requires, EC2 is just servers. Servers required network to function, and VPC is network in AWS world. If we don't give him access to VPC as well, he won't be able to spin up any server. So even if you have specified just the EC2 there, he still gets access to VPC because VPC is in turn required by EC2 to function. All right. So if you give access to VPC just, okay, now we are going to do it in reverse. We will give access to VPC, but won't give access to EC2. And let's see how that turns out, right? So let me go back. Let me just go to IAM and edit his access. So I have one user now. Click on this user whenever you want to edit it. And just remove EC2 full access policy. Come on. So whatever access you are giving, you can actually view it here, S3 full access and so on. Let's come. See, an error occurred when you are not authorized to perform this operation. So as soon as you removed that permission from his user, you're getting an error. If I go to dashboard again, if I go to running instance, again, I will get an error. Maybe if I try to launch an instance, it will let me go till the end, right? But still, you're not authorized to perform this operation. You will get errors. All right. So with AWS, you can really have very granular control over what your users are allowed and not allowed to do. See, we removed the EC2 access. Now I'm getting retry. I'm getting errors all over because VPC access was coming because I had given him EC2 access, because a server requires network to connect. All right. but now I have removed that access. Now he's not able to access the VPC. Don't worry about VPC, don't worry about EC2, just concentrate on the permission for now, because these all topics will have their own classes, 2 or 3 classes each topic. Don't concentrate, I'm just explaining how permissions work. All right, so click on add user. Name of the user is user2. All right, AWS management console access we want to give. Okay, we want to give him a custom password. Let's give him a custom password. All right, then I want him to reset his own password when he tries to log in, because I don't want to know his password. Click on next. Okay, now do I want to add him to a group? No, I don't have any groups right now. I'll create groups later. Do I want to copy permissions? I can, but let's not do that and give him permissions directly. I came to permissions directory. All right, what kind of permission I want to give him? I want to give him permission to create EC2. All right, so search for EC2 full access somewhere here. This is EC2 full access. Okay, I selected that. Okay, maybe you want to throw in another permission, maybe VPC permissions. VPC full access, no worry about it. Maybe I want to throw in S3 as well. Whatever product you want, maybe I want to throw in RDS as well. Any number of permissions you can give. You can mix and match. Click on next. I want to add tag. So my tag is keywords department. Maybe this person is from admins. All right, create user. This is my summary. Okay, user2, blah, blah, blah. These are the permissions. Create user. User is created. All right, now let's copy this URL. This URL will be same for each and every user. Go back here, log him out, the previous user that we are running, sign out. All right, and just paste the URL here, click on enter. We will get a simple sign in console. All right, so I want to log in with user2. All right, what's his password? Okay, this is his password. Click on sign in. Not now. Ask me to change the password on first login. I'll do that. Change password. I change the password, and now I am logged in as user2. Right? So the additional permission that we have given now is RDS, right? These 3 were already there. So let's go on RDS. And last time it threw an error as soon as we tried to see DB instances, right? Let's see if it throws an error now. No, it's not throwing any error. It's just saying no instance found because we don't have any instance. Last time it was just giving me an error. You are not authorized to view instances or not, right? So you have your user. Maybe I want to remove this permission from this user. Don't worry about it. Go to IAM again. Okay. IAM users. Now I have 2 users. I want to edit user2. I want to remove his permission for RDS. Okay, we can do that. Just click on this small cross here. As soon as I detach it, right? So now he'll no longer have access to RDS. Let's verify that. As soon as I click on databases, see, got an error instantly. You don't have access now because we removed that permission. Okay, so when you create users on your own, you will get really the hang of it. But right now, okay, the process is this. I'm just showing you the process. It's like, okay, this is your car and this is your gas, this is your brake, this is your clutch. But unless and until you sit on driving seat, take the handle in your hand, take the wheel in your hand, you are not going to, you won't be able to steer it, right? So when you view these videos again, try to drive that car, you will get a real hang of it. Okay. Now let's go and create a group. Okay. Let me create a group, create new group. So maybe the group's name is SYS admins. So all my sysadmins will stay in this group. Now, the advantage with this group is when I'm creating users, I have to add policies every time, right? But if I create a group, right, and I add policies to that group, so next time I create a user, I just have to add that user into that group and he will automatically get those policies. Okay, I want to create a group that has EC2 full access. Okay, don't worry about it. Okay, created this and this group is created. Okay, now I have a sysadmins group. No users are there, but I have a permission to have EC2 full access. Now I go to users, I click on add user, user 3. Okay, AWS management console access, construct password, blah, blah, blah. And I created this. Now what I want to do, I want to add policies, copy existing. Now I have the option to add from group. As soon as I click here and SYS admins, my user is created. That's it. So if I go to IAM now and look at my users, so see this user 3 is now part of sysadmins and he will have all the permissions that sysadmin groups carry. So what are those permissions? Those permissions are EC2 full access. He has one permission of his own, that is to change his own password. Another one is EC2 full access. That is attached from the group. So this is the way how you can inherit policies. So maybe you want to create an audit user. So what audit people do? They should be able to see everything, but not create anything, right? That's how audit works. They come, they see, okay, these are your records. They are fine. So let's create an audit group wherein we give them read-only access. They can only see. So create a new group. The group's name is audit. And I click on, so say I want to give them EC2. So here is EC2 full access. Here is EC2 read-only access, right? So full access gives them creation as well as read, everything. Now, when I click on read only, they'll be able to see what is in there, but they won't be able to create anything. Okay. So they won't be able to spin up new resources, new servers. Yeah. Audit is there. Okay. I want another user added to this group. Which user? I can add all of them. So a user can be member of multiple groups as well. Right. So say I want user 1 to be part of audit group. Okay. Don't worry about it. There it is. So if I go to users, see, he's part of audit now. And if I see his permissions, so he had S3 as well as password change as his own permissions, but now he is also getting the audit permissions from audit group, which is EC2 read-only access. So you can mix and match around these. Okay. Now let's go back to our PPT. Now we created users, we created group. Now there is another way to manage permissions, and that is role. Now you ask me, okay, group is also sort of right role, right? There is an audit role, there is a sysadmin role, but these are for your one AWS resource talking to other AWS resource. I'll tell you what I mean by that. Say you have a server, right? You created a server. Now you want that server to be able to upload data to S3. Okay. Your server should be able to talk to S3. Okay. Now, if you enable S3 to be, accessible from everywhere, what that causes? Any person who logs into your server has automatically access to your S3 as well. So say in case of a security breach, you lose one server and with that goes your S3 as a part of it. But if you have created a role, if you have trust policies, you can restrict that access for AWS as well. So even a person is logged in your AWS account, he is logged into your server, he won't be able to access other resources because you have not given them permissions to do that. Okay. And creating a role is as simple as creating a user or creating a group. So let me go back to my console. See, here's your role. Click on role. So it will tell you what a role does. Okay. A role is a secure way to grant permissions to the entities you trust. So what are entities here? Maybe an EC2 instance. Maybe your AWS service wants to talk to another AWS service. Maybe you want your corporate data center to be able to talk with your AWS, right? Just some fancy terms, but have really simple meanings. So let's create a role. So maybe you want your one EC2 instance that is handling your user data to be able to talk to another AWS service. So see, common use case EC2. Let's create EC2. Allows EC2 instance to call. Okay. Click on next. So what kind of policy you want to give him? I want him to be able to access S3. But I don't want full access. I want him to give only read only access. Right? So when you click on next, maybe we can skip the key for now. So here is the role name. EC2 server can access S3. Okay. Allows EC2 instance to call his service on behalf. Correct. And click on create. As soon as I create it, I have this S3 EC2. Where we will use it when we create EC2. Right now, just learn, okay, this is how it's created. And you can create a number of roles there. Don't worry about it. Similarly, I have policies. So what are policies? See, EC2 full access. It's a policy which gives permissions. So policies are way to manage permissions. You want 10 permissions, you want 20 permissions, you want permission to S3, you want permission to EC2. So right now it might seem a bit, scary or intimidating, but it's very simple. All the policies that you need are available here. And if you want to read about them in detail, just click on one of those and it will tell you, okay, full access, full access, full access, full access, full access, right? So you don't have to worry about, creating policies or anything, but you should know, okay, these are the options that are available to me. I can have a user select any one of these 200 plus policies that Amazon has already provided me. I can give ES full access. You can have read-only access. You can have really granular control over your AWS account. Okay. So main thing that you want to know about IAM is how to create users, how to create groups, and how to give them permissions. That is 99% of the work that you are going to be doing in IAM. Okay. Log into your AWS account, go to your users, create some user, add their name and everything, add them to a group, maybe not, give them some permissions to work with, and that's it. You have a user created. All right. So far what we did was we created a user, we created a group, added users to your group, we gave them some permissions. Based on those permissions, they were able to log into their AWS account. They were able to see some stuff. They weren't able to see some stuff based on permissions. That's it. I mean, what is access management in just, right? So you are managing access. What is access management? A user should be able to do this, not this. That's what you are achieving here, right? So you are giving them permissions to do some stuff. Whatever permissions they don't have, they won't be able to do that. Okay. So let's say you want to create a user who should be able to do each and everything, anything imaginable. Okay. Whatever you are able to do as a root account, you want him to be able to do that. So I create a user, super user. Okay. So this is my super user. I'm giving him AWS console access. And he will be able to reset the password. So attach policies. So here is something. Okay, super. No. See, administrator access. So what administrator access gives them is, come on, out of 221 services, he gets access to 219 of those. Okay, so this is the max access that you can give to someone. Now, what are those two services that he's not getting access to? I'll show you. Let's give him access and then see in the management console itself. Okay, no key and super user is created. So if I go to this policy and I see his permissions, see, he's not able to go give IQ permissions. These are the two things that he's not able to give. So these are ways to completely destroy your AWS account. So the power to destroy your AWS account lies only with the root user who has access to all 221 of those services, right? He has access to 219 of those, and these two permissions are not there. These are two permissions that can really destroy your account. So these are actually ways to talk to Amazon. Okay, I don't want this account, just delete it. Okay, that way you lose all your data, all your servers, whatever you have created, it's all lost if you talk with this service and ask Amazon to delete my account. Okay, so your admin can do each and everything, but not destroy your account. Okay, so let's verify that. And let's go to here and try to log in with my super user account. Okay, this is my account. Click on sign in and I will have this. So it's asking me to change my password. I change my password. My password is changed and I should have access now. All right, so all the access is there. I won't even see IQ, I think. Accepting the responses. And if I go back here, this won't actually be submitted. See, so it's requesting responses. It won't be submitted ever. It will always be requesting responses. So super user access is equivalent to your root account, but with small access that is not there. So you're not able to talk to Amazon directly. You have to have a root account to do that. So this is how you create users and groups and permissions and so on. So permissions let you control access to AWS resources, and you can have permissions granted to users, groups, and roles. Users are your normal users, user 1, 2, 3. You can have n number of users. You can have groups wherein you can add multiple users into a group. And these permissions are permissive. So when you create a users, by default, it has 0 permissions, right? So it asks you to, okay, what permissions you want to give, and they get only those number of permissions. A user would not be able to do anything else except the permissions that you are given him, right? So if he wants newer permissions, he wants to do something else, he has to request you, who has the access to the root account, to be able to grant those permissions. You can attach a policy to specified permissions. So a policy can have multiple permissions, like say EC2 full access policy comes with access to EC2, access to VPC, access to CloudWatch, and so on. And policy consists of action, resource, effect, and condition. So action is, okay, you want to read, write, or delete whatever. What resource? EC2. Effect, yes or no. Condition, when logged in or logged out. That's it. A policy, as I explained, is given to another AWS resource. It can be an EC2, it can be an S3. So when you have your AWS account, do create users and groups. It will really help you to navigate like what all is expected out of you, what all things can you do with users and groups, how they mix and match. And it's completely free. So go crazy with it. Do anything you want in IAM section. You won't be charged a single penny. So really look around and experiment with it. So this is how a policy actually looks like internally to AWS. You can also see it. So what is doing? Version, this is the version, this is the date. Statement, effect is allow. You want to allow what service? EC2 service with action name something and resource. So let's see an actual policy, right? So don't worry about it. Like it looks a bit cryptic, but it's really simple. So let's see an actual policy here. If I go to audit, see the permissions that I've given him. Okay. So show policy. So see EC2 describe. On EC2, I won't be able to describe on any resource and the effect is allowed, right? I want ELB to describe allowed. And this is really simple. So these are only read-only policies. He should be able to list metrics, describe, and so on. So all these are just read-only things. List, get, describe, right? So if I go to some create policy that has create things in it, so you don't have to write these. You don't have to know the syntax and everything. All these are built in for you. Okay, let's go to EC2. Go to EC2 full access. Okay, look at it. Look at JSON. So EC2 star. Any action on EC2 is allowed. Any action on elastic load balancing is allowed. So this is your EC2 full access policy. So full access have any action allowed, any action allowed, any action allowed. So all these are allowed, right? So based on the access that you want, these policies are automatically generated for you. So this is how AWS access management works. Like we saw, we created one user. We gave them full access to EC2 as well as S3. He was able to access both EC2 and S3. Then we created another user, user2. We didn't give him access to EC2, but gave him access to S3. So he was not able to reach to EC2, but was able to reach to S3. Similarly, another group was able to reach to S3, but not EC2. So you can have mix and match. So administrator was able to reach everywhere. So depending on the policies that you give him, the layer at IAM stops them or grants them access according to the identity that you have attached with them. All right. So the next step that we are going to do is to safeguard you people so you don't get any surprises in terms of AWS billing. Okay. So AWS comes with a free tier. All right. So when you create something and it's in free tier, you don't get any charge, which charge is $0 for that. But if you exceed that, you will be charged the standard rate that is there for each and every service. So if you go to any service, say you go to EC2, right? So EC2 has some pricing. So I go here, EC2 pricing, right? Just Google it and you will be able to tell, okay, how much is the pricing. So there are two. So let's go to on-demand pricing. Okay. And here it is. Come on, load up. So every region has a different pricing, right? And it's billed per hour basis. So maybe you are in US East, Ohio region, and you spin up a small A1 medium server, you will be charged 0.0255 per hour. Okay. For one CPU and 2 GB of RAM, this is what you are charged. Okay. You spin up. So these are really starting numbers, and it can go really high if you spin up large instances. See, $4 an hour. All right. And there will be something around $5 an hour. There will be something around even more, I think. Okay, $3 for this one. See, $7, $14 an hour. So if you end up spending spinning up those in maybe 10 hours, you will be charged $140, right? So you have to know when you are in AWS console, you have to know what you are doing, right? So that's why I don't want you to, keep following me when I am explaining the things to you, because you miss out on many details that might cost you. Though AWS reimburses, so if you are in a dev account, you are in a free tier account, you tell them, okay, it was a mistake, I was learning stuff, that's why I ended up, spinning this. They'll reimburse that for you, but that would only be one time. They won't do that again. So one time was first mistake is forgiven by AWS, but why we have to make that mistake even, right? We can make informed choices and not make any mistakes, right? And if you want to see if you are getting charged or not, go to your AWS console, scroll down here, go to my billing dashboard. You will be able to see if you are getting charged or not, right? If you go to your billing dashboard, it will show you the currency, right? So it will show you how many dollars are you charged if you have made any request. So see, top free tier, S3, 0.01% I'm charged, right? So I'm not charged anything because I'm less than 1%, less than something. So even if I make 2000 requests, I won't be charged. But yeah, 2001th request, I will be charged. Okay, so I'm not charged anything. And if you go to Cost Explorer, it will tell you how you are getting, how what. Okay, you can set your budgets. I want this budget, I don't want to exceed this budget. You will get an alert and everything. So what I want to do is, whenever you are exceeding your limit, I want an email to be sent to me, right? So whenever I exceed my limit, so maybe I get charged $1. As soon as I get charged $1, I should get an email. I should be, so if I get an email, I will be warned, and I can go on account and delete the stuff that is charging me. So how you go about doing that? Go to services. Okay, let's first see here. So you see this billing preferences, click here. First step is checking this, receive free usage tier alerts. Turn on this feature to receive emails when AWS usage is approaching or exceeded the free usage tier. So as soon as you create something and it starts reaching the end of your trial, you will get an email. And as soon as you exceed that, you will keep getting email every hour. Okay, you also get billing alerts. Okay, turn on receive billing alerts. So how can you manage those alerts? Just click on manage billing alerts. When you click on manage billing alerts, you will be taken to this page. You see this billing, right? Click on billing, and you don't have any alarm right now. So alarm will send you an email. Click on create alarm. Okay, so you want your estimated charges in US dollar over a period of 6 hours. What will be your threshold? If it exceeds $1, so as soon as the charge exceeds $1 over a period of 6 hours, you can even do 24 hours, you can even do 10 seconds, right? So you can do a minute. In a minute, if it crosses $1, but that is very short, you won't cross $1 in a minute unless and until you're spending something really big. So let's make it 6 hours, or you can even make it a day. So let's make it a day. So if in a day you exceed $1, you will be given an email. So let's for now keep it 6 hours. Use a static value greater than 1 hour. Click on next. Okay. So when you want your email to be sent, when you are in alarm means that you have exceeded the $1, right? So create a new topic. Enter the topic name, inform me of billing. Okay, you just put in a name, inform me of billing, and which email address. So invalid. Okay, I have to put underscore here. It is not giving me spaces. Inform me of billing. So what is the email that you want this to be sent, right? So you want it to be sent to some email, your own email. So you get an email as soon as you cross $1. So I entered my email and I clicked on create topic. As soon as you create topic, your topic is created. Okay, click on next. You enter an alarm name, billing alert free tier. Okay, and you click on next. Preview and create. Okay, greater than $1. All right, and I have created it. See, my alert's been created. So right now it's showing insufficient data because I have set it to 6 hours. So it needs at least 6 hours of data to start working. Okay, because if I had set in 1 hour, then within 1 hour it has data to start working on it, right? So now after 6 hours, this will start working. So in 6 hours, if you cross $1, it will give you an error. And if you don't, it will be, so this is pending confirmation. You click on here. So it will show you it's pending confirmation, right? So SNS topic is pending confirmation. Don't worry about it. Just go to services, click on SNS, click here. You have your topic that you just created. This was inform me of billing. And you see it's pending confirmation. So what happens, the email that you entered here, right? An email will be sent to that on that email address, and there you will have to confirm, okay, yes, I want to subscribe to all the updates that are coming. So I go to inbox, you will see subscription confirmation. So you just have to click on confirm subscription. As soon as you click on confirm subscription, your subscription will be confirmed. And here the status will change to confirmed. So this is what we did today. So we created users, we created groups, gave them permissions, and played around with those users, how they are interacting with each other, how we can control access, how we can give all of the access, how we can give only read only access, how we can take away access, how we can add tags. So this is all we did.